you noticed how many people are making big, bold decisions right now in their business and their life? They're making moves where they're literally tearing down businesses that they've been running for years that are really successful, feeling like they're something out of alignment. It's just not fitting well for them. They've got this real restless energy, and some people literally just pivoting completely and starting from scratch. Well, it's not random, and these things are not unconnected. There is no coincidence here. It is because of the energetic shift of the year that we're in right now. And today I've brought along somebody to talk to us about this, have a conversation about it, so that we can understand better and more fully, what does this mean for us? How do we best use this year, as in 2026? It's a 1 year, and we're going to explain what that is in this episode. How do we best use that and use this time, and also understand what to lean into and what to lean away from potentially in our business and our life before we're making those really key decisions on what actions you're going to take. So stay tuned. It's coming right up. You're listening to She's the Business podcast, and I'm your host, Jessica Osborne. I'm a marketing strategist, a business coach, and I've been here in this game for a long time. I've had over 25 years of marketing since my very first marketing job, and now 15 years as an online entrepreneur as well. I've built 2 businesses from home with my little babies, who are now not babies anymore, running around at my feet. And, I've been there, I've done that. I've bootstrapped, I've had $1 million budgets to work with back in my corporate days. I've literally seen, tried and tested what works, what doesn't work for all sizes of business. But right now, my passion has been for the last 10 years to help other professional women just like me to make that transition, if they're ready to, away from the workplace, away from that structure that's really no longer suiting your life and how you want to be living, to be able to work for yourself, create flexibility, freedom, and the ability to decide for yourself how many hours you want to work every day, where you want to work, and not compromise on those important moments with your family, which, as we all know, disappear so quickly. They run past, and you really want to be present and making those choices that are right for you. So that's why I do what I do. I absolutely love it. I really love helping women to identify their highest value expertise, package it, and sell it in a really simple system that doesn't feel awkward, icky, pushy, or any of those things that we love to hate about being in business for ourselves. So let me introduce to you today's guest, because she's somebody who has actually been here on She's a Business podcast before. We have known each other for a number of years, and she is a really great blend of business strategy. She has a marketing background as well, but also an understanding of the energetics, of human design, of some of the invisible things that do have a really big impact on your success as an entrepreneur.
Hi, I'm your host, Jessica Osborne, and over the last 25 years in marketing and business, I've helped many brands to launch, scale, and grow, with some of them becoming multi-billion-dollar companies. I'm here to inspire you to get out of your own way and create a profitable, fulfilling business while living the lifestyle you really desire, without all the hustle. So I bring you She's the Business podcast, a unique blend of strategies, tactics, mindset, health, and spirituality, literally everything you need to be the successful leader of your dream business. Made by women, for women, this is your weekly dose of motivation and inspiration.
So hello, I'm here with Samantha Riley. She's a business growth coach and consultant, head of Samantha Riley Global. Welcome, Sam.
Hey, Jessica. Great to be here.
It is so good to be here. I have to apologize in advance for my voice because I'm recovering from some lovely thing my kids gave me. And yeah, it is struggling slightly, but I'll just get down to the husky tones and excuse that.
I was going to say, it sounds sexy. I like it.
Yeah, not the vibe I was aiming to give across, but yeah, we'll go with it anyway. um, so lovely to talk to you, Sam. Sam has actually been on the podcast before. It was a while ago, Sam. I had to look it up. Episode 115. So we're up to almost 300 episodes now.
I was
So
going to
that is,
say, I think it was a few years ago.
it was a few years ago. And you probably don't remember, but we did a lovely episode really talking about human design, and you gave a really great summary of the different types. So anyone who's sort of new to it could understand it, but importantly as well, what it means for your business. So thank you. That was great. And if you are interested, please make sure you drop back and have a listen to that episode. But welcome. Could you tell us today what it is that you do in your business? Who do you help? How do you help them?
Yeah. So I work with service provider businesses, business owners, to help them to scale. So to make more revenue, to do it in less time, and everything in between there. So that's who I work with. Have been doing that. Have been in business for 32 years now. Have been working with business owners for almost 15 years. So have been around the traps for quite a while doing this. And I know that we're going to sort of go into the energetics again today. And I've always been interested in sort of the energetics and the spirituality right since I started my first business years and years ago. But I didn't really start talking about it in my business till around 2020. And the reason is because I didn't want people to think that I was flaky or I wasn't smart because I talked about this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why, when you and I were having this conversation, I was like, no, it really is time. And it has been for a little while to say that as business owners, we have to bring all of these modalities, or we don't have to, but I think that to understand that there's so much more to us than just, logically, this is what we do.
Yes.
Or this is how we build a business. We're complex beings, and there's so much going on around us. And with the energetics, to understand what's happening and what energies are at play, and to almost bring it in, or to understand it just like we'd watch the weather. If I'm going to go for a hike, I will watch the weather to see, am I taking an umbrella, or am I taking my sunscreen? Like, what am I taking? I can still go on the hike, but I'll probably prepare for it in a different way. And that's the way that I see that, what we're going to talk about today, the energetics that are at play, because it helps us to understand how we're feeling, how other people around us are reacting, the things that can happen, and to be able to take a deep breath and go, oh, I understand what's happening here, and just using it a little bit in that way.
And that's exactly why I wanted to have this conversation, because I think that the majority of business discussion, information, learning, education has been so sort of structured and formulaic, and, this is how it works. Here's the framework, and, it's all very logical and rigid. But so often, right, you might follow something, even you might follow it to the T. I'm not the best one at following things exactly, because I think I'm one of those people that likes to kind of take something and make it my own. But I know so many people who said, I've literally done exactly these steps. I've followed the strict formula. Why isn't it working? And it's like, well, sometimes it's not about that. It's not that you don't follow the steps. There are other things at play, and that invisible energy, like we are energetic beings, and you can't really ignore that. And even science, that used to be so much about, the scientific tangible stuff, I think, it's even adopting so much of this understanding of energy and energetic forces that are at play, and the things that we can't see, trying to explain it. And I think that's why it's so important that, like you said, it's a matter of being able to be across all of it. Yes, we want the structure, we want the formulas, but if we're ignoring this whole side of the energy, then that's going to make life really difficult to run a business.
Totally. And you said, that it's hard because it's not sort of science backed. It actually is now science backed. So people are still calling it, woo woo, but it's just because we don't understand it. And the way that I would explain this is that when I turn on the light switch, I have no idea how the light comes on, but it
Yes.
does. That doesn't mean that there's not a scientific equation to which wires go where. But I don't need to understand. I just need to know that when I put the light switch on, that the light comes on, right?
Yes.
And
Mhm.
this is sort of similar in that there we can think about it as woo woo, but it is scientific. That
Mm.
it is fact. We don't need to understand how it happens. You don't need to believe, you don't even need to believe the planets are causing anything, or that, whatever it is that some people that make it like really weird and out there. You don't need to believe that, but just understand that this energy is like cycles, and there's cycles through every
Mm.
part of our life. Like every system in nature runs on cycles. It's the
Yeah.
tides, it's the seasons, it's
Mhm.
the economic cycles, business growth cycles. And when you like look at history, even history itself moves in cycles and rhythms. So maybe if that's the lens that you need to put on for today's conversation, just to start to
Mm.
go, oh, okay,
Mhm.
let me just, you don't need to be fully out there to go, all right, well, let's just put the lens of it's a cycle, and how can we use this in what we're doing to grow a business.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that, I used to be, not even very long ago, someone who really had no idea about any of the spiritual side of anything apart from seeing the weekly horoscopes in the newspaper or whatever, and
Yeah.
thinking, oh, what a load of nonsense.
Yeah, right. And that was me
That was me.
too.
And it was like, but there are some things that you just can't ignore. And even if you think this is new, it's actually not new. Like Einstein, and everyone goes, we know who Einstein is. He's a obviously very respected scientist. He came up with that whole principle of relative energy, and that everything is energy. That literally came from him. So this is nothing new. Humans have known about it for a while, but what we've done with that information or our understanding of it, I think it's really been accelerating in the last, I don't know, I'd say definitely the last 5 years, I've seen a huge acceleration. Obviously, I've been more aware of it myself, but I think it has been accelerating more recently. And, the other thing that we all can do is sort of look around and think, it's those things that you can't explain, like why you feel intuitively
Yes.
inclined towards something and not towards something else. Like there's energies at play. You might walk into a room and just go, oh goodness, you could,
Uh-huh.
you could break the silence with, and it's just like there's an energetic feel in that room. And when you start to think about it, you're like, oh yeah, I do feel that, or I do sense that. And we have these things. We've just never labeled it before, or maybe never
That's right.
known what it was.
Yeah.
And I love that you were talking about cycles. Literally this morning, having a conversation with my husband about AI and, the doom and gloom and the end of the world, and how some people are thinking it's going to be like Terminator.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
robots are going to come in and everything, they're going to take over the humans. And I was laughing, saying, well, actually, I just think it's a big cycle. It's a civilization cycle.
Yeah.
We might be bringing about the end of one era and maybe a new one will be born, but I don't think it's going to end everything. Like, it's like with everything that we look back on the millennia, like it has been in cycles and rhythms, and it'll be interesting to see where this one ends up. But that to me is, you can look back and see that, like you said, everything in our world works
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
cycles.
Yeah. And we are due for that next cycle. So, and
Yeah,
and when we say we're all like little pinpricks, I mean, that's
yeah.
thousands of years likely, but you can see that it's coming.
Exactly. So the interesting thing, and the reason why I wanted you to come on and have a chat today, is because recently the year changed, and we entered into the year of the horse. Now, I am zero expert on Chinese astrology. I regularly figure out what my year is. I actually think I am year of a horse, and then I forget it, and I have to look it up every time. So I am no expert on it at all. But I've heard a few conversations that have kind of piqued my interest, and people saying, last year was a 9 year, so it was like a
Mhm.
closing.
Mhm.
Can't even say that word.
It was definitely a year of closure.
Closing. Yeah, closing. I'm like blending the two together and coming up with a new word.
Yeah.
So, that's interesting. And then now we've got this new year that started, and I would really love to hear your take on what does this even mean? Like in terms of the energetic world, what's happening, what could we become aware of that we may already be happening around us and we're just maybe a bit oblivious to at the moment?
Yeah. And you said you're not an expert. And I just want to be really upfront and say this is not my expertise either. Like I'm not a Chinese astrology expert or a numerology expert. I'm not an expert any of these. What I like to do is to bring all these things in and just almost be the conduit to say, this is what I've noticed and this is what's happening. So if there's any experts in these modalities out there, like, please reach out. I love to learn it all. But yeah, it is, last year was a universal 9-year. Let's start there. Which was a year of endings, a year of closures. And I think that I haven't met anyone that hasn't gone, I didn't feel that to my core. Like it was just a year of people feeling like I've outgrown my offer. I've outgrown my business model. I've outgrown the people that I want to work with. It's real. I'll give you an example of this that probably a lot of your listeners will know is that Amy Porterfield shut down her, what was her program? I can't
Online
remember.
Course Academy.
That's it, of course. And a lot of people are like, oh my goodness, it's the end of online courses. It's not. I saw straight through it. I'm like, she's been doing that a long time and it's the end of that cycle for her. It's time for her to up level. She's amazing. Of course, it's the perfect time for her to step into her new business model and let someone else step into their new business model that's in that area. So it was really about letting go of everything that wasn't feeling aligned so that we could go into the next cycle. And in numerology, we work in 9-year cycles. So the 9 cycle is the ending of that cycle. And then this year we've entered into the universal 1 year, which is the beginnings. It's all about foundations. So that's the universal energy. What the fire horse energy is what you were talking about. So it's the year of the horse, but it's also the element of fire. Last year was the wood snake. So it was a snake year, had the element of wood, and it was like a similar kind of energy, right? It was the energy of reflection and going within and really thinking, does this feel right? Is this where we want to be? Is this what we want to be doing? Again, ready to shed that skin coming into the year of the fire horse, which is very much around independence, around momentum. It's around really big personal moves. It's about like really shaking off old constraints. So we had to do the shedding to be able to come into that energy. We also have in play, and this is why it's such a big time, that Saturn has moved into Aries, which it hasn't done for, oh my goodness, I've sat down without the actual date. Again, everyone there's probably a million people screaming at me for the year, but sometime in the 60s.
That's fine. A long time ago.
But it's this cycle. So Saturn did move into Aries in February at the same time as the fire horse year came in. So Chinese New Year's in February. And Saturn is going to stay in Aries until 2028. So we're at this beginning of a cycle where Saturn is all around structure, discipline, long-term foundations. Aries is all around identity, leadership, courage, initiative. So when you put them together, this theme arises of it's time to stop dreaming about it and it's time to start building it. And when you bring all of this energy together, it's not just about building the next thing, it's about building something that is really, really aligned. Like I'm sure we can all feel that there's a big shake up in the energy of, different different, I can't think of a word besides things. That's perimenopause brain, right? But, structures are starting to crumble.
Yes.
And the way that we're using this energy is to do it in a way that's our way. So it's this leadership piece, but it's our leadership, not the old, in air
Yeah.
quotes, the patriarchy kind of leadership.
Yeah.
Like
Not
those structures.
conforming to
Exactly.
the status quo that was the old way. It's like, no, let's redefine it and create those
Totally.
new rules. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's rules the way that we want to do it. So,
Yeah.
so Saturn's come in and said, all right, well, you've had all this insight because Saturn has come out of Pisces, which is all very internal. And it's gone, okay, so you've had all these insights.
Yeah.
What are you actually going to do with it? Because it's one thing to notice, but it's a whole new thing to step into the new, to have the courage to say, I'm going to do it differently, or I'm going to step up and really up level myself or next level. And it's a very accountability energy. So it's about not just taking leadership of your business, but of your whole life. And I know that we're on the same page with this, that your business, we create a business to support the life we want. It shouldn't be running our life. And so to be able to step up and take that leadership and say, this is what I want my life to be like. So let's build a business that supports that from time perspective, from a money perspective, from a purpose perspective, and let's build something real. And the accountability piece is, let's commit to a direction. Let's do this.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually taking that bold move, right? Like it all makes perfect sense. It's sort of, there's the structure, the discipline there to actually take the action, but then there's the identity and the owning of it, that I think it's like you need that. And then I don't know, I sort of take that whole the fire being like the element of the new year. The horse is like fueling that flame, like let's go. And so we're going to see some really bold kind of decisive actions being taken. Like you mentioned before, I thought, it's so funny. Amy Porterfield and I think Jenna Kutcher as well. They both closed down their courses at the same time, and everyone's like, it's the end of online courses. And I was thinking,
I was like,
no, they're just two people taking action.
Exactly.
Good. If everyone else closes their course down, great. I will zig where everyone else is zagging. And
exactly.
It doesn't mean anything. How many times, I think about 5 years ago, everyone said, that's the end of memberships, because there must have just been a whole lot of new ones that came on, and it made me laugh because I sat there and thought, just wait another 6 months and no one will be saying that anymore, and they'll all be. I think that then there was the end of high ticket, and then there was the end of we had a few ends of over the last few years, and they all still exist, funnily enough.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I can see that that's actually misinterpreted, but it was them taking, like you said, this bold action of shifting into where they meant to be next, the identity. They've finished that reflection phase, and that wasn't suiting them anymore where they were. So they've actually taken action and moved, and it makes perfect sense when you think about it in that sense.
Totally. But I wanted to touch on, before we move on, you said, it's that fire energy, it's that movement energy. And what I want people to think about is that fire can either cook you a beautiful meal or it can burn your house down. And if you don't put the intention in the right place, it doesn't automatically mean it's going to be positive. You still need to be very clear around what it is that you're doing. So remembering that Saturn's about structures. So what are the foundations that we're building? So with the one universal year, it's all about getting the foundations right so that we can build something that sustains the next 9-year cycle. So if we don't get the foundations right and we use the energy to essentially burn our house down rather than create a beautiful meal, is going to make the next 8 years exceptionally painful, because our foundation's going to be shaky. So we really need to harness this energy in the right way. It's a year of discipline. So this is the year of, being very clear in this is the direction I'm going, very clear in finishing things, very clear in refining things, very clear in creating systems and structures to be able to hold what it is that you're building. Otherwise, it will all collapse.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to mention was, I think I've seen a lot of people thinking, oh, thank goodness the 9 years gone, the 1 year, oh, it's about time, it's going to be amazing. But think about any time that you've really stepped up to that next level, it can feel exceptionally uncomfortable. So just be aware, like don't focus on it, but just be aware that when you're going to the next level, when you're breaking glass ceilings, when you're pushing the boundaries, doing something different, building something that's new and hasn't been seen before, that's all the energy that to enable us to do that. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be nice or feel comfortable. And certainly, I guess I'm speaking from personal reflection myself. I was at a conference last week and we were in a mastermind, and it was that energy of like, why are you doing that? Why are you playing that small? Like, with 32 years business experience, why aren't you going, 3 levels up from there? And, I vulnerably share that because it was exceptionally difficult to hear, but it was also exactly what I did need to hear. But then it wasn't about using that fire to just go, I'm going to go. It was about, all right, let's sit with that for a little time, just for a little time, get the learnings. What was it trying to tell me? And now what do we need to do to make sure the structures are there to be able to move that, like to make that very quick little pivot, but to make sure it's being held. So
Yes.
yeah.
And that, helping you to then step outside comfort zone, which we can often get into without even really realizing that we're in it, because you're just going about what you're doing. And it's those moments, where someone holds up the mirror, like you said, it's like, oh, it feels a bit uncomfortable at the time because they're just showing you you're in the comfort zone, like you're actually not stepping out of it. And I love that you said, and I think it's worth repeating, intention. So it's like having that action that you're going to do, but not doing it without the intention being there. And this is something I think is a really great lesson. You and I both have, a marketing background, but how often have we heard the phrase, throwing spaghetti on a wall or scattergun marketing? Basically, that means marketing with no intention. Like you're just doing an activity because someone down the road says that you should do it, or I've seen so-and-so doing it. This is my son, actually, hilariously. He swims competitively. And I pulled him out the other day and I was like, when you race, why are you suddenly using straight arms? And he's like, well, I've seen Cam McAvoy using straight arms, who's an Olympic gold medalist. My son is 12. Cam is, in his late 20s and has sort of earned the right to be able to do that. And he's like, and I see people in a gold squad doing it. And I'm like, okay, but just because they're doing it, that doesn't mean that you should automatically just do it and then you're going to be a gold medalist or, a sprint champion. I'm like, they have trained that way and they're being coached to do it. I'm like, is your coach telling you to use straight arms? And he's like, no. And I'm like, so why would you think that would be faster than the way that they're coaching you? And, it was sort of took that unpicking of the logic to kind of really pull it apart and show him that made no sense what he's doing. But it's the same thing. He's just blindly following an action. And I think that a lot of us, to bring it back to business, there's so many shiny objects out there, right? Like you only have to open your feed. Someone will be there saying, this is how you've got to do it. And, oh, I got 20,000 views on this reel, blah, blah, blah. And they'll say, I'll give you the formula. And it's fine. It's not saying that they didn't, but you have to just stop and go, okay, but why and how? And is this actually for me? Is it even relevant for me? Are they, I'd like to have 20,000 views on a reel, but is this person and how they're doing that and their approach, is that actually a right fit for me? And this is partly, like you said, about being intentional and having that little check, but also knowing yourself well. And if you've had these years of reflection, hopefully now that we've come out of them, maybe you do actually know yourself better than what you think you do, and to kind of be leaning into that and thinking it is not about just because one guy out there, I think lots of people blindly follow advice, Alex Hormozy being one of them. If he says to do something that would then work for me, it's like, not necessarily. It may be the complete wrong advice for you. And so just following it without that intention, and without intentionally knowing this is a great fit, it's going to be the fire that you don't want. It's going to be the fire that burns down the
house down. Exactly.
Instead of warming you up or cooking your food. And yeah, I think that to me, I think that was a really important point. What you mentioned, intention. It is something we overlook often because we're all in a hurry to have it work. We're in a hurry to get the result, to build the business. I have people going, oh, I haven't got there yet. I'm like, how long have you been in business? Oh, 8 months. And I'm thinking, 8 months. Like, okay, turn that into years.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Isn't that something that marketers have killed? Like,
yes,
by using marketing tactics that you can build a business and in 6 figures in a couple of months. Like, sure, there's a very small minority that can, but there's always a bigger story as well. Like, were you handed an old corporate client, or is this your 10th try at doing it?
Exactly.
I was just having this conversation before with someone, and they said, oh my God, like, business is so hard, I don't know if I can do it. And I think they were expecting a magic pill, and I went, well, it is hard. It really is hard, but so is having a job. So just pick your hard. Like,
I know, just different hard. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I think what you said, what you said there was so important, because yes, it's about intention, but also how easy is it to go down the wrong path with someone else not looking in and telling you? Like, we're in, it's like we're trying to build this business sometimes, like wading through mud at the bottom of a pond. Like, it is so hard to see. So to have someone else going, oh, like, why are you swimming with straight arms? Or why are you like spending all your time on LinkedIn when none of your people are there? Or why are you doing that business model that makes you, that you're traveling when you want to be home with your kids? Like, sometimes it makes so much sense, but it's nice when someone else from the outside sort of looks in and goes, like, can we question that? Go, how did I miss that? It is very easy to go down that route of being caught up on the wrong path for a really long time.
Yeah. And there's no shame in it. Like, we've all done it. I think it's so easy to hear someone with a compelling story get up and talk about what they've done, and you're like, wow, that sounds awesome. It makes so much sense. And you kind of get all, I definitely can get really excited about things. And I'm one of those people often that has to learn through doing. So I will do the thing and then go, oh yeah, in hindsight, I can see how that works, but that actually isn't right for my business. It would be great if I had the benefit of hindsight beforehand sometimes.
Oh, how nice would that be?
But, the point is, it's more like that check. And I think the more you do it, the more practice you'll get at it, right? Sam, you probably would agree, because after a while you can start to go, okay, let me play this out in my head. And you've been more used to having those checks and maybe more of those experiences where you go, I see how that would work, and that could be a great strategy for someone's business, but that's not for my business.
Yeah.
And what I see the big difference between, say the high 6 to 7 figure business owners and the ones that are like struggling to get towards 100K is they're far more particular about the strategies that they use. They really know their business well, and they're okay with it being like, hey, that sounds like a great idea, but that's not for me.
Yes.
They're much more comfortable in their own decision, in their shoes, and to be like, every now and then they might go, oh, that sounds cool, and I'm going to give that a try. But they're very much more choosy about what they try, and they're not like leaping all over the place and going, just what's the thing I'm missing? And maybe you might think, well, it's because they've been doing it for a lot longer. Not necessarily. I just think that it just comes with, there's a bit of more maturity with the level that you get to when you know yourself, you know your business, and you're okay. You're not actually on that FOMO, or not on the FOMO wheel thinking I'm missing out because I'm not doing it.
And I think that also on top of that, you get to a point where you know how much doesn't work and you don't get married to the outcome. So
Yeah.
if I try something these days, it's not like, oh my God, I'm putting every bit of self-worth on this, that if it doesn't work, it's going to be like the worst thing that ever happened to me. Now it's just like, I'm just going to try it. And if it doesn't work, I'll just move on.
Yeah.
So I
Doesn't
think
mean
there's that. It's
anything.
like
Mm.
once you've been in business a while, you know that it's like that constant. Well, it's not failure; it's learning, right? You're just constantly learning all the time, and I think it's that reframe to know that it's not a failure, and that you
Yeah.
have to constantly try things, get
Hmm.
the data, so you know what to do next, because everything's just data.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like when you've had, it's fail, like go out and have those failures, even have the things that flop, try something, because the more that you've had that, I think it definitely desensitizes you emotionally to the next one. Doesn't mean don't try something new, because gosh, how many stories have we heard? I always love the light bulb one. Was it, 99 times he
Oh,
found a way that it didn't work, and then he found the one that did. It was like, imagine if he'd stopped after 71, would never have got there, because, and you think, well, that's a lot of different ways of finding that something didn't work. And, I've never heard anyone say, well, I just kept going and never got there. It's like, well, if you do keep going, the definition is that you haven't failed, because
yep,
you haven't got there yet. Like, there's no quitting. You only really fail when you quit.
yep,
So it's like that. It's okay. And I think now I think about something, I might try something new, try a new offer. And I'm not thinking like, oh, if it doesn't work, that's the end. I'm just thinking, well, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And then I've just learned what's not going to work. Or maybe I didn't, maybe I should try it again, but in a different way, because you
well, or
don't, how
sometimes it's
often do you
just
get
that
it
the
right the first
timing isn't
time?
right. Sometimes it's
Timing
just
isn't
the
right.
timing isn't
Yeah.
right. Like,
Yeah.
and it's got nothing to do with you. Like, I think about, um, I mean, the easiest sort of explanation of this is COVID. Like, what worked before COVID was completely different to what did work when we were in lockdown.
Yes.
And now what worked then doesn't work now. And it doesn't mean that any of it was right or wrong. It's just that there's things going on that have nothing to do
Yeah.
with us and are out of our, anything that we can
Mm.
do. So I think, yeah,
Yes.
I think the thing with business is that you have to be okay with just pivoting and changing and trying and failing and learning all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Now, you mentioned COVID, and I think that's a really great thing to just touch on for a moment, even today, because that was a time of the world being in a really, like, the energetic, I'd call it balance, or I don't know, the energy of the world, I think, had a huge shift, and there was so much fear. I really noticed it, and I was someone who was not very in tune with it back then, but I remember sitting there one day thinking, I have made some strange decisions in the last 3 months. And I'm like, looking at them like with hindsight, as you do, and thinking they're very fear-based decisions. And I was like, I've been watching way too much news. And I made the choice
Mm.
right then and there. I was like, I'm switching it off, because I live here on the Sunshine Coast and we were fine. We didn't really have anything going on. The sun was shining, the beaches were amazing, and Brisbane people couldn't come up the highway, so we had the beaches to ourselves. It was amazing. And I was like, why am I letting all of this, really, bring me down when it doesn't need to? And so I
Mm.
made that choice then to sort of put a bit of distance in place. But I'm curious to hear, because I feel like we're in another time right now.
Hmm.
Trump has just started a war in Iran. What when that kind of thing is happening, what do you see as what's important to know about the energy in the environment that we're in? What to be aware of, maybe, and what tips would you give people to manage that?
Yeah, and I think you touched on probably the most important there is to be really aware of how you're reacting in the world or acting in the world,
Mm-hmm.
or which one is it? Um, I think there's a very big difference between putting your head in the sand and being empathetic, and that I can have empathy for some awful, awful atrocities that are happening in the world right now, but I don't need to be living in it because I'm very, very lucky that I'm not, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. So I've got empathy for people that are in it,
Mm.
but I'm not going to turn on the news. I'm like you. I'm not going to turn on the news. I'm not going to doom scroll, because the thing with the algorithm is it will deliver you more of what you're looking at. The more you look at, I discovered Kyle and Jackie O and the fight that they had on air. That's all that came up in my feed. I had to reset my algorithm. Go and Google a few Italian holidays, which
Yeah.
you can do. You actually can do that. And I do. If I get caught in some sort of algorithm spiral, I will just think, what do I want right now? And I just go Google that and it resets my algorithm.
Yeah.
Be really aware that everything you do, it's a very weird world in that it will deliver you more. The more bad you see, the more you will see in your feed.
Yeah.
So be very, it goes back to that leadership of self. Like, what do I need to do to make sure that I'm leading myself in the best way possible? Because when I lead myself in the best way possible, I can then show up as the leader for my family and for my business and my life, because I've looked after myself first. So I think it's really important to understand the way that that all works. And that doesn't mean I'm cold. It doesn't mean that I don't, like I said, have empathy for what's going on out there. But me being caught in that algorithm and putting my tinfoil hat on and sitting in front of the TV is going to help no one. It's not going to help me. It's not going to even help them, the people that are out there, and just leadership, I think, is the word, just to keep top of mind leadership.
Yeah, exactly. I like how you said that, leading yourself, because it made me think, we can practice this almost every day. You don't need any crazy world events to be going on, but you can literally open up your feed and see comments, and you can see people who are triggered by things and they're reacting to something somebody said. And often you're thinking, oh, goodness, such a narrow-minded person, and you probably want to respond and change their mind. But the thing is, what they think, it really, whatever, that is their person. And so it's practicing that kind of sense of being able to see that stuff and then not taking it on and not getting triggered yourself by someone else's response, and not winding into that, it just so
I've got to be right. I think.
Yeah. Like, it's okay. Someone, they might have a crazy view and you just are like, whatever you want to think about them, oh, they're idiots, or they can't see this. That's okay. They can, you can turn off your phone and they'll carry on living their life thinking what they think, and it's not going to affect you in any way.
Totally.
The only effect that you have is the one that you bring on yourself by kind of getting involved with it or taking it on. And I think the more we can do that, the better, because one of the dangers that I see a lot of people, women, I think we're particularly sensitive to this because we've always been aware of people's judgment and, needing that permission and that feeling of approval. That I think that we just sort of naturally tune into so much. And I think that is what causes a lot of people to seek approval and to seek, well, I need to correct that, and I want people to agree with me. I want that person to change their mind. And it can be very easy to then be swayed by what you're seeing. You see someone say online courses are dead. You're like, oh my God, online courses are dead, without actually thinking, okay, that's one person's opinion. I don't have to agree with it.
And it's also okay to be curious about it too, right? So I think about my life before social media, and if a friend didn't agree with something, I didn't automatically go, oh my God, you're not my friend anymore, which is what we see on online, right?
Yeah.
It was like either, well, I don't agree, and you have a joke and you move on, or you say, well, tell me about that. I'm a very naturally curious person, and I will normally say, can you tell me more? Because sometimes I might say that to you, Jessica, and then I go, oh, I hadn't actually seen it that way. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's actually a really good way to look at it. I'm so glad that you shared that. But it doesn't matter what your opinion was. like, you're still my friend. Like, I just don't, this
Exactly.
is just such a weird world that people are like, oh, well, you voted for so-and-so, so you can't be my friend anymore. Really?
I know.
Are we really stooping that low?
It is insane, isn't it? And I kind of see it playing out with a whole lot of things where, people will call out red flags on stuff. And I'm like, really, you're just showing that you've got a trigger. You're telling people, I've got a trigger about something. So I'm calling it out and I'm telling everybody that this should be everybody's trigger. And it's like, well, actually, only the people who are allowing themselves to get sucked into that will, but everyone else is sitting there thinking, okay, you're over there with that opinion and that's fine and that's yours, and the rest of the people aren't even paying attention to it. But it's one of those things, I think, coming back to that self-leadership, it's being able to have that moment, like you said, have the intention before you take action, have the intention of like, it's okay, I can read something that someone's written, their opinion, and not have it affect me, not allow that to then affect my actions, because my actions should be intentional for the right reasons and not for the wrong reasons. And there's a lot of people spread, negative energy or things through what they're saying. And usually those sort of people are really good at, making a case, getting people to follow them. And it does take a bit of strength, I think, to decide where you want to be and where you want to sit, and to hold yourself to it, hold yourself.
Absolutely. And that doesn't mean that it's easy. Like,
No.
it doesn't mean that it's easy. And it's not easy because we're real people with real feelings, and I would imagine that anyone that's listening to this is like a good person. So, you want to do things with the best of intentions, but even I'll just talk to me here. I'm a good person. I'm empathetic. I love people. That doesn't mean that everything I do is perfect. I say dumb shit sometimes. I say hurtful stuff sometimes. I say things that I don't even mean in the moment sometimes. And they're all red flags, but that doesn't make me a bad person. It makes me human. And I think that when we're rising up to the next level, or when we're trying to, that area in the middle, that disparity of being really afraid of, I'm afraid that I'm going to get found out, or I'm afraid that I'm going to say something that people will call me silly, or I'm afraid that I'm blah, 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 is the thing that's going to hold us back. So I don't know where I went there, but I think I'm just going to trust that. Well, we're in Mercury retrograde. It's all about communication. I'm just going to trust that someone needed to hear that right now.
No, absolutely. I could see the complete synergy of that with the whole conversation that we've been having, because it is about, like you say, it's taking that responsibility. This new 1 year, the identity, the foundations, that all has that play in it where you own it, you take ownership of it. We're going to take action, but it's going to be intentional action, and being that little bit disciplined, it all makes a lot of sense. And I think it's good to know, well, this is where we are. This is why things might be happening like that. And just to be able to, I like to have the analogy sometimes that you're in almost like a glass, I don't know what to call it. A test tube came to mind, but that seems weird. But imagine you're a tiny figure inside a test tube. So you've got like glass all around you. You can see out, but nothing can hit you. So all of those energetic forces coming can bounce off and reflect. But you can be inside and seeing out. And I think when we can put ourselves in that sort of place, it allows us to be present and be aware without being pulled in or drawn into it.
Yeah.
Which is probably a really good place to be if you're going to really leverage this new year that we're in, and actually decide, well, this is what I'm building, and the foundation, and who that identity is. And I think what you said brought it back as well, stepping into those shoes. You mentioned that there's that shift happening, right? Where it's like you're moving into the next level. It's not necessarily going to feel comfortable, and that's okay.
It's part of the journey. It's just part of the journey. And I think that surrounding yourself with the right people is like, everyone knows that logically, but absolutely surround yourself with the right people this year. They're the people that will help you to see what you can't see or what you may have missed. They're the people that can help you to stay on the right track. They can support you. It's not going to be easy.
Yes.
When we're building what we really, really want, you think it's going to be all rainbows and lollipops, but it's not, because you are going to come up against those, those obstacles that you've hit before. That's why you're not where you want to be. So there's obstacles there. So surround yourself with the people that are going to help you to navigate those, to support you, and at the other times to give you a bit of the velvet glove and go, excuse me, come on, like, let's do this, do what you want to do, or that system is not strong enough, or actually, your clients telling you something doesn't work. Okay, all right, how can I make this better? So using this feedback from everyone around you to really lay strong foundations this year in a way that works for you and the way that you truly want it to work for you.
Yeah. Love that, Sam. It's just been, I think this is such a great kind of reset episode. I hope that if you're still listening, we have been chatting a while. I could talk for ages. I think you and I have a great chat.
We have a great chat.
But it is, I almost feel like I've just taken a few deep breaths, and it's like, okay, we've turned the page. Now we're understanding what this next chapter is about. You can start sort of putting the framework in place. What do you want this chapter? What's it going to be about? You're writing the story. It's not written yet, but it's in front of you. And I feel like we've really created that space for someone to be in to do that in this episode. So I thank you for all of those insights. But before you go, is there, I know you mentioned that you had something for the listeners. Did you want to share what that was?
Absolutely. So we've been talking a lot about foundations, and this is where I sort of skip from the spiritual into the practical, because if you don't get your foundations right, like I said, the next 8 years or the rest of the 9-year cycle is going to be really shaky. And obviously there's all sorts happening in the world. So we want to build something that's got real structure. And it's really important when you're building your business and you're building those structures that you build them in the correct order. If you try and move the constraints out of order, it continues to be shaky even when you're working on your business. So I'm very big about ensuring that you remove the bottlenecks in order. So remove the bottleneck and insert the new foundation in order to make sure that you build something well. So I've got a bottleneck audit, which is only like a 2-minute quiz that helps you to understand where your biggest constraint is. So you just have to focus on what is the next constraint, and I'll give you the next 3 things that you need to do to remove that constraint. So I'm all about speed. We're in the year of the fire horse. So it's about get in, what's the constraint, let's fix it. And you can get that at samanthariley.global/audit for the bottleneck audit.
Great. That sounds so good. I love it. Find what it is, and then here are the steps to take that intentional action to remove it. So could not be more perfect after what we've just talked about today. So thank you so much for that, Sam. Link is in the show notes. If you want to just drop down and you didn't write it down as Sam was talking, then you can just go and click on that link to go and grab the audit. And otherwise, whereabouts do you like to hang out, Sam? Where can people connect with you if on your social platforms?
The best place to find me is on Instagram. My handle's @thesamriley. I'm sure you'll put it there. I was just thinking, if any of the energetic stuff that we were talking about is resonating and you want to know, you mentioned before that human design, I've got a little GPT that helps you to work out exactly like some of the energetics around your personality. Just shoot me a DM and just say, hey, heard you on Jessica's podcast. Can you just shoot me that prosperity code? I'd love to shoot it through.
Awesome. That sounds really cool. And you can also listen to Sam on her podcast, Business Growth Lab, which is a show that's been going for many, many years now. So I know that she's got a lot of great content on there. And if you've enjoyed this conversation, then definitely go and check out Sam's podcast as well.
And we'll find you on there. So
Yeah,
more Jessica Osborne. Yeah.
More of me. Thank you so much, Sam. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks so much.